Welcome to the Val and Ang show. I'm Val.
I'm Ange.
All right, on the field, off the field.
We got your game plan.
Let's take the game to the next level.
Let's go.
What's up, Ange?
We're
back
back.
at it again. The Monday morning flex, right? The Monday morning flex. We're reflecting into the week. You know, bringing knowledge, a ton of wisdom. Trying to have some fun with it. You can't not play this game, whatever game it is, and not have fun. It's like when I'm talking to my son and we're driving to a basketball practice or a game. I said, first thing but last thing, always have fun. If you're not having fun with what you're doing, you're going to hate it. You're going to become that kid that's going to cry after everything, you know, as opposed to, okay, I took a loss on the chin, right? When you win, you smile. When you lose, you feel it, but you got to learn. You got to learn from, why did I lose? Why did we lose? Why did we lose as a team? And when you start to understand that, especially at a high school level, when you start to understand that, you are now then emerging as being a leader without saying anything. Being a leader, even if you have to voice something, you know. And we spoke about leadership. For me, leadership drops in, you know, so many ways, right? But I'm just going to rattle off probably three. I just gave you two. Leadership can be done silently with your work ethic.
Silently.
Leadership can be done with your voice, but you got to back it up with your work ethic, right? And it comes down to this last thing. Leadership has a price, right? And if you're walking and talking and doing the right thing all the time, right? You're the first person on the field, last person to leave the field or gym, you know, people are going to start to see that. Your teammates are going to start to see that. And then all of a sudden, they see that you are now getting the accolades, you are now getting the recognition, right? And it might not be off the rip at first, but it's happening over time. And as hard as it might seem, right, you have to stay the course to be that leader, no matter how hard it is, right? And sometimes as a leader, you're going to have to pull and push people along who don't want to. I remember when I played and I'm at Rutgers, and I was just like, I came in, I thought I was strong. I needed to be stronger. I thought I was fast. I needed to be. So I always spent 30 minutes to 45 minutes after the practice and during training camp. I was doing things around the compound lifts that we were doing to improve myself, working on my get off. It wasn't good enough today. I wasn't fast enough off the ball. I wasn't relentless enough with my hands. All of a sudden, sophomores, juniors, and some of the seniors were like, man, if Val doing it, I'm going to go do it. All right. 1 turned to 2, 2 turned to 4, 4 turned to 8. All of a sudden, we were all staying after and getting that extra work. And that year, it was going into my sophomore year, you started to see the tables turn. By the time my junior year came around, we were number 1 in the nation in sacks. And it was because we started to do things together without a coach saying anything. And then the coach just gave us he gave us the title of the bloodline, you know. And bloodline is, you know, we're so connected to each other. You know, we can look across the line, down the line from each other, and we'll have our own little stupid signals. Like, hey, I see you there. All right, you got that. I'll hold this corner. You make sure you're doing this. All right. Like, if you know you got something over there, you communicate with me. I'm on it. We got it. All right. And now imagine 4 of us on the line talking that same language.
You said birdie to the connection.
Yeah. And now you got 4 that's in front of the 7 other guys that's depending on us, and we're depending on them. So now we're in the forefront of this defense. We're the leaders of this defense. It's not just one person, but it had to start somewhere, you know. And we started to gel together once we started doing the little things together. What do you think? What?
Just getting back into coaching, like leadership isn't always about the direction you're going in. I think it truly is, like, even off of what you said, it's your alignment with yourself, with your purpose and your why, and with the people around you. Because you can't be a leader, and this is like time quote, if no one's following you. And you don't have to necessarily go in a direction, but you have to connect with the people around you. And that starts with yourself. If you don't know yourself and you're not intrinsically motivated by just what your why is, and because of the program you're in and the people around you, then, you know, it's going to be a struggle. I definitely think being a leader, and you don't have to be the loudest leader or the hardest working leader, but you need to be a leader that leads at least themselves to go with, you know, the rest of the team is going. So it's definitely shifted for me, 100%. But I would say, like, in this episode, just talking about like the reflection of us both coaching at the same time this fall, what would you say the biggest thing you learned about yourself was?
Patience. My patience was tested as a coach, because when you grab onto a program and you have to teach, demonstrate, and explain, like you got to be patient with the kids that need to grasp this information. And it's not just the kids that are playing on Friday or Saturday. It's the kids that are coming behind them, so we really got to make sure everybody, so that way we have, a wave coming up behind it all the time. So we have that depth, because
Mhm.
a bump and a bruise, a sprained ankle could take place. Okay, next person in. We have to keep the train moving. And it's like, okay, all right. Where back in the day, I sprained my ankle. I'm not coming out the game. Take this thing up. I'm gonna keep playing.
Yeah.
You know, but in today's world, a sprained
Yeah.
ankle, with the surfaces that we play on, when kids get hurt, it taught me a whole lot of patience, because we have to adjust. They got to learn differently. It's so much enhancement to them at their hands,
Mhm.
and they're just not
Mhm.
focused on certain things. So I had to be patient. I'm like, how much film did you watch? Stop act like you don't watch film. You have your
Mhm.
phone in your hand. You can watch film. You gotta be in it. You gotta be part of it. So we had to figure out new strategies and tactics to help them watch film, teach them how to watch film, educate them on how to watch film. And like we said, it's not going to happen overnight. And it was just so much time. And I was like, guys, you got to do it. And as fiery as I can get, I had to be patient. And I'm just like, listen, I'm not going to
Yeah.
yell. I'm not going to scream. I'm not going to change my vocabulary. I got to be patient. So that was a big test. And the energy was different when you start to see them start to understand it, and they ask the right questions.
Yeah.
And like Tad, like coaching with Tad is like they're starting to have football conversations. It's like, I'm pretty sure your girls were then having field hockey conversations. It
Mhm.
wasn't field hockey conversations early on amongst the team. It was field hockey conversations amongst you and probably one or two players. And all of a sudden, one or two players turn to, okay, now we're having field hockey conversations as a team. It's just like you're having football
Yeah.
conversations as a team. And they're starting to understand that. And that's the beautiful part about it, is that we had to get them to understand that. Well, because we wanted them to understand it early, but it was so much
Mhm.
growth throughout the season, and it was just patience. Be patient, So that's a very underestimated word
Yeah.
too. Patience,
Patience.
coaching the girls across, and then listening to Chris, and it's like, gotta be patient. Like, time your cuts. Like, why are you in a rush? Like, we have the ball. There's no need to rush. But only time you need to rush is when you're cutting through the eight. That cut needs to be so fast. Right? Be patient. Wait for her to
Yeah.
clear. Then you come. That's such an underestimated word.
But I think, like, they need to what they do is when they're not confident, and we talk about this, they're not confident in themselves, and then they're not confident in their preparation. They panic, and they don't believe that the being patient is going to help them. They think, "Well, let me go as fast as I can because this is what I know. This is what I know. This is
Mhm.
what I gotta do. We gotta get it done. We gotta do it," and starts to do everything by themselves, take the ball, dribble it, and everybody goes away from the game plan. And that happens because they the confidence isn't there and they panic. So what you were talking about, like, as far as when you say patience, I think it's the talking football. Mine is talking their emotional awareness of, like, "You're pissed right now, so what are you doing about it?" Or, "You're not playing right now, and can you talk about why you're not playing well right now?" And then by the end of the season, to hear the girls just be like, "Well, I'm putting too much pressure on myself. I wanna get that hit right, and I can't get it right." And it's the constant conversation. It's not all about you. Maybe that hit didn't get off exactly the way you wanted it to, but we actually scored a goal by it. So, be patient with the process of a 60-minute game. Like,
Mhm.
it's not defined by one moment, it's defined by a
No.
bunch of moments altogether, you know? So,
Hey, we
it's true.
say we say in football, 3 big plays you lose a game, 3 big plays you win a game, and big plays are 25 plays or more.
Mm.
No, is the game over? No, you gotta continue to fight. But it comes back to, yes, your patience, process, yes, but your preparation is part of the process. So if you
Mhm.
if you apply patience to your workload and you have confidence within your workload to believe in yourself, you start to prepare yourself to go through the process, and may you win or lose. but you got to enjoy the preparation in the process. And the preparation to the process, just like you're saying, is that one shot that you said wasn't perfect. I promise you 5 weeks from now, it'll be perfect if you stay hitting that same spot.
Amen.
Shiana always talked about the chop. Keep chopping that one part. Keep chopping that one part. Keep chopping. Keep chopping. All right. Because when you keep chopping, sooner or later, the tree's going to fall. But you got to keep hitting that same spot. If you don't, you took your eye off the spot, and all of a sudden, your tree ain't going to fall. All right. Your hands are going to start hurting. Your swings are going to get weaker. Right. Because now you're searching. You're searching for a new spot. Like, what are you searching for? Stay the course. Right. Enjoy the process. So definitely, I definitely respect that. That
What'd you
is a
learn
major
about athletes?
comes back to patience.
What do
You
they
gotta be
need the most?
patience.
You love
Knowledge.
this word.
I'm telling you, it's such an underestimated word with today's athletes and being in the industry that I'm in with training athletes. And I fall victim of it. I give them something new. Like we're
Mhm.
doing a new drill, it's a new footwork drill, and then into a change or into this, and it's like that's not the way I vision it. Like, and and instead of flying off at the rocker, I'm just like, nope, we're just gonna keep wrapping it out. We're gonna keep wrapping it out. I don't care what it looks like right now. You got to keep coaching them. You got to keep coaching them, and some will get it, some may not. I said, you know what? Y'all gonna do this every week until we start to master this movement to go into the next movement. And I learned a lot with these athletes, just coaching, between being patient, understanding how to prepare, but also body control. Their brains are so much
Mm.
faster. And I'm just like, you got to slow down. Like, don't take slow down me like walk.
Yeah.
I mean, like slow down, like everything is you're trying to process everything, you're not receiving nothing. Slow down, right? Slow it down so that way, okay, let me get this part of the puzzle right first before I try to complete the entire puzzle. You got to master this part before I try to master the entire thing. As a defensive coordinator, I'm talking about 3 phases of a defense. You got the defensive line, you got the linebackers, and then you got the secondary. And the way we run our practices, the D line, you go with your D line coach. Linebackers, you're with your linebacker coaches. The secondary, you're with your DB coaches. And everything is tied to one puzzle, but you're working on your part of the puzzle. So that way, when we come together, the puzzle comes together. All right, defensive line, you got to be here and do this
Yes.
and this, that. Everybody has their job to do. Right. And if one person tries to squeeze into the puzzle the wrong way, the puzzle falls apart. The puzzle won't work. I'm just like, you're trying to do his job when you're supposed to be over there. You can't do that.
Yeah.
You can't do that because then all of a sudden, right, he's like, well, where am I supposed to go? I'm like, that's where you're supposed to be. You're supposed to be in this gap. Control your gap. Don't take your eyes off of it. Read your keys. Do it. Be where you're supposed to be. And just coaching them through that. For like the first week, I said,
Mhm.
we're not putting in anything new other than our base defense. Everything will pivot off of our base defense. All right. And I've spent time. I spent from when Chad got, when Chad, I said, listen, I'm going to figure out how to go from a 4-3 Tampa 2 to a 4-2-5 to a 4-4 defense to a 3-man front. And it was just understanding the personnel and just trusting that this kid can go from this position to that position without even thinking about it. That takes a lot of patience. And that's without subbing kids in and out. We thought it could work. We said,
Yeah.
let's try it. Let's see if and some games, yes, some games, no, we got to make substitutions. It, it, it tested the patience because in between those white lines, you see it so much faster. But I got to remember, I'm 43. These kids are 15, 16, 17, so they're not.
Yeah. It's a
What
great
about you as a first-year head coach? As a first-year head coach, well, coming back to coaching, this is your first year back coaching as a head coach.
that
What would you
yeah.
say your biggest challenge was as a coach dealing with young women, as a coach dealing with young women athletes?
I would definitely say that, like, you start off the season and everything is unbelievable. These kids are locked in because they don't have as many distractions. School starts and you start to like slowly lose them third week of September, early October. And when I coached at Shore last year, in the Shore athletes' minds, the ultimate goal is the state final. You're going deep into every tournament because that's that's what they know, that's the standard, and that's what it is, you know? And going back and being a head coach at St. Rose, they weren't used to that. You know, years past, it was like, well, our season's almost over. So they didn't know how to keep that standard going, that focus going, that, you know, to see that it maybe it wasn't about the winning of those big tournaments, but more of us being patient with the process of what we're building here, because we might not see it for 3 years. My freshman class, we're going to see it the most, right? And so I think I wasn't prepared for the lack of focus and what would happen mid-season. You know, I build chemistry with a group of girls, but that takes years to really know how they tick, because in the beginning everybody thinks you're great, and then eventually things get in the way. So the focus was definitely hard, and I think my ego too, you know, got in the way and didn't stay the, you know, remembering that there are going to be some games that they just don't play well. There are going to be some games that they don't click. And jumping down their throats about it when I put my ego first did not help the situation. But when I stepped back to see what I was up against, right? You can't change Rome in a day. And I was really, really trying. I really, really was, until I stopped and said, no, no, what were your goals this season? And go back to that North Star. And that's when the season then ended strong again. So it was a journey, but it was definitely awesome to see what the girls need and to see how much I've grown as a coach, for
Yeah.
sure. 'Cause I wouldn't have been able to even reflect about that. I would never have been able to take the tough moments as feedback, and I would just call myself a failure, but I have become such a different leader of people, because I really truly believe you have to lead with love before anything, and you have to lead with, you know, patience. That it's definitely changed me, and I hope it continues to change my program.
It will. I mean, from the sounds of it, like you like as the season went along, you always reverted back to your basic, always reverted back to your foundation. You know, but would you say as a coach? And now we're talking to coaches as well as athletes. Getting your
Okay.
program, getting your program to understand that they have to have a foundation, because when everything else fails, that's on top of the foundation. You always end up back there as a
Mhm.
player, as a
Mhm.
coach. You know, would you say that is a huge challenge throughout a season as the season goes along to uphold your foundation?
100%, because it's in the youth sports are dying because the foundation has so many cracks before the kids even step into your program. Just the foundational aspects of people's expectations and how much time they're putting into it, and you know what their brains are thinking about and how much stats they need and scholarship, instead of getting down to the basics of the foundation that we are creating better humans and leaders off of the field. Like,
Hmm.
that is the ultimate goal, coach. Winning is 100% needs to happen. I'm not saying that it doesn't, but you know, yes, the foundation has to be there so the kids know, okay, like I might be distracted because of this, but that my foundation in this program at St. Rose is that I show up and I have to give 100% at practice. And those practices build so that I could be the best player I can be. And in those moments when I have to do the things I don't want to do, I'm setting myself up for the rest of my life, because I'm always going to have to do the things I don't want to do to be successful.
Hmm.
And it was wild to actually see that you had to give them the smallest thing to go back to. So the way you said that was like perfect,
Right.
because you know, I have to control in the program, despite, you know, like I was just talking to somebody about the platforms out there where they're constantly highlighting the top performers of the week and who scored the most goals. None of that. The top performers of the week is based on, like, even my own girls would
The
receive
team
that
results.
honor. Yeah, but sadly, we were playing teams that we were so much better than.
Yeah.
I want them to receive that on when we're in a 3-game week playing the top teams in the Shore Conference.
Yeah.
But instead, people just look at that number and they see something that's so fleeting that
Yeah.
it's not good for the foundation of youth sports, to be honest. It's just not. It's kind of cracking what we're all trying to build as coaches, to be honest.
100%. It is definitely a challenge, when you're talking
Yeah.
about the foundation because, we lose sight of, and we all fall victim. I fall victim. We get caught up in the success in the successes
Mhm.
of, statistics and stuff like that, and we lose sight of the team
Yeah.
sometimes as a player. But as the overall win is the team. And like a running back goes for 250 yards. You don't go for 250 yards without those big boys up in front and the quarterback handing you the ball, unless you're running wildcat all day and you're not by yourself. So it's like when a coordinator gets a recognition or something like that, that don't happen without the other pieces to the puzzle. That don't happen without, you know, one, the head coach believing in you, trusting in you, one, your defensive line coach, one, your linebacker coach, one, your secondary coach, and vice versa on the offensive side. It's a puzzle. It doesn't happen without your surrounding cast, and your surrounding cast all got to be on the same page. When we sit in our offices and we come together, we disagree to agree. Because at the end of the day, the end result is to get the win. And winning isn't everything. Winning isn't normal, right? It's habits that we create. And if we create winning habits, and it could be the smallest things, but those smallest things start to add up to the bigger things. You don't get to $100 without going through $1. So you got to keep building up those dollars. You got to keep putting that time in. And with time,
Yeah.
you have to make it count. That's why everything has a price to it, and it doesn't have to come behind dollar signs or something like that. It comes behind your work ethic and you enjoying the process. What you put into it, right, is what you're going to get out of it. If you give forth 50% effort, don't expect 100% results. Having
Mhm.
that conversation with the kids last week, and I'm sitting back and I'm working with RFA's boys across, and then all of a sudden I'm watching this group and I'm just like, yeah, y'all were over here spending time going back and forth to your phones. God knows what you were doing on your phone. I'm not hovering over you. I'm not babying you. Right. And then I watch y'all have a conversation for 2, 3 minutes. Then you go try to go do a lift. I'm like, you're not 100% in tune with your workload right now. I was like, I don't care that you talk. You have to have the ability to be able to talk and work and push each other. Right. I want a competitive level of competition in here. When you're working after, you can go hang out and do whatever y'all want. Push each other, challenge each other, compete as an
Mm.
individual. Because by the end of the day, y'all gonna end up playing against each other. You're gonna be fighting for something, going against each other. You're gonna look back at this
Mhm.
date and they're gonna say, who put the work in? And nothing ever is going to be perfect for you. But you got to come back to your foundation and say, I put the work in. I pounded the ground. I started to mix the cement. I started to cast it. We put the work in. We as a program put the work in. All right. And if you do that as an individual in a group session, you'll be able to take that back to your team and start to install that into your team. And this is what we're trying to close the gap on, right? When you're not dealing with teams, but you're dealing with individuals and trying to get them to understand that you're a
Yes.
leader because you're doing the extra to create separation. Had a conversation this
Mhm.
morning with a soccer coach, and I was just like, the girls don't
Mhm.
lift in season. And I said, why? They do all that work before the season. They lift, they run, they do all that work to go ahead and lose it. And when they go to college, they lift, they run, they practice, they play. I'm like, it is all a process. When you're going, and then when you hit the season, right, it's tailored down, right? So we got to make sure, one, we're preparing them for the long haul, but two, right, don't make them lose what they developed, right? We got to keep that going, even if we just tailor it down to, X amount of reps, slow it down, right? And then focus more on body and mental because today's games is real mental, very mental, no matter what sport you're playing,
Mhm.
right? So you got to keep their foundation
Yeah.
strong underneath them. Because if you don't, and all you're doing is just playing games, and practicing, right, we're going to dwindle away. Everything they did, everything that they worked
Mhm.
on, right, they lost. They jumped up 10 to 20
Yes.
pounds on the squat, 10 to 20 pounds on the bench. When they come out of the season, oh God, I got so weak. Well, what did you do in season, right, to uphold your foundation?
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
It's all good
It's
stuff.
it's funny that you say that. Like, you think of what you said, like, in life, right? Like, teaching them this foundation that they can go back to is what is honestly the skill that we need in our own lives. Like, when things go wrong in our lives, we go back to the foundation. I go back to God, my foundation. I go back to, my work ethic. What can I do right now in this moment? to make myself feel better, to keep going. And it's the same thing like in our sports programs, right? Like these kids get distracted, but we bring them back to the normalcy of their routine, of coming to practice, of doing it over and over and over again. So like I love that it relates so much to their life, but I just want them to see it more. But it's really hard to get them to see it because they want to see it. They want everything at their fingertips, and we can't give that to them at their fingertips. Like I can't explain it to them. But here's how I did this season, which I thought was really cool. So normally for me, like, and this did happen twice, I would tank it like after a loss. Oh, I would beat myself up. I wouldn't sleep, the whole 9 yards. And I think it was mid-season, Jalen Hurts said, yeah, no, I love it. He said, you either win a game or you learn from a game. You never lose a game. So I would get the girls together and I'd be like, all right, what did we learn from that game? And I would ask them, not all together in a group, because when they answered, they would answer just like their friend. Some of them don't have an original thought, and they would write down what they learned. All season long, I kept it. And then in our last couple games, they were doing those things that they learned to almost perfection in the last game. But that last game didn't lead to a win. What it led to was every single one of my players walking off the field knowing that they learned from the tough times and that they got better. And it was a moment where they stopped their tears. It was the coolest thing, Val. Like I've never taken that much time to actually like look at it. But I was like, this season, that was one of my goals, was to be like, can I teach them how to learn from hard moments? And it was really cool. Really cool.
That's awesome.
So,
that's rewarding.
Kind of puts it into practice. Yeah, it's really cool. It's very rewarding, and and to be honest with you, people are like, I was working last night. Somebody was like, what was your record? Like, I have no idea. I remember like truly 6 games and 3 of them were losses, about how excited I got in the games, like, and how special we played. When you really remember that, like, it's just like you have to keep that focus.
Yeah.
It's funny though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's crazy. Let's talk a little bit about what we're going to roll out on December 20th, a little leadership summit. What is your vision for it?
For a leadership summit? Well, is to one, open the of getting people to understand that you don't have to be labeled a captain in order to be a leader.
Yes.
Everybody thinks you have to be, oh, I'm not captain, so I don't have to do that. I'm just like, but you're wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Your attitude towards everything right now is negative. I wouldn't have labeled you a captain either, because you have a negative attitude towards your perspective on things.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that. Let the captain do that. Right. But you want to be a star player, star players don't need to be captains, so not all captains need to be leaders. Everybody can be a leader in their own way. Leaders lead, followers follow. As a freshman, you can be a leader in your class, but you're going to have some upperclassmen that you're going to follow. All right. And you're going to watch them either do things right or you're going to watch them do things wrong. Learn from other people's mistakes, and lock on to what people are doing positive. What made this person successful? Okay, let's take it this way. How can I make myself better by learning from what that person did successful? So that's the big thing is letting them know that there is a sacrifice behind being a leader. There's a lot of sacrifices behind being a leader, and you're not going to be the person that scores goals all the time. A leader, you can be a leader that, you might got 10 assists, 10 assists and 5 steals. You might not made the interception, right? But you caused it, because of you being where you're supposed to be. You put the person in the right position, So that's what people need to understand. And it's like working in a Fortune 500 company. A CEO doesn't become a CEO by, following negativity. CEO becomes a CEO of a Fortune 500 company by following a blueprint and then adjusting and making it his or hers, taking ownership for what they do.
Yes.
So that's where.
Yeah, I want to definitely open it up to, definitely get kids in there that, want to learn how to be leaders, and they aren't necessarily the best, most talented kid on the team, and learn how to lead themselves. Because if you don't know how to lead yourself to a great work ethic,
Mhm.
to being able to reflect on what you're doing wrong, then you're going to have a hard time leading anybody else or making it to that next level of whatever that level is. Every CEO, all these people that are at the next level, there's no secret to what they do well. And the most important thing is they work on themselves.
Yeah.
We talk about it all the time. Like, this here is the best thing in the world for my mental health, because I get to talk about what it is, how to help people, number one, and number two, being in a room with a like-minded human being. And these kids need the connection in the community to be around like-minded athletes. And it doesn't have to just be the ones on your team. It can be the ones in your community, in your school. And how do you bring those people together? And I think that's what our ultimate mission is to do that.
Yeah, so surrounding yourself with
Provide them
like-minded people. Yeah. So
yep,
surround just
that's the most important thing these kids are going to do.
yeah.
So we'll get that out there and just get a nice 2-hour little summit going on, some
Yeah.
giveaways.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. Just keep spreading our message.
Yes, indeed. There was one thing. Yeah, have you ever heard that where it says God grants us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can,
Mhm.
and the wisdom to know the difference. That's serenity.
Yes.
That one has been ringing bells.
Mhm.
Got to be willing to change as a
Yeah.
leader. You got to adjust and pivot. You know, through all the muck, through all the storms. You got to know how to navigate yourself through the storm when things are not going right, because you have somebody following you. Right? You have your team behind you following you. As hard as it might have to be, as bad as it might feel, I remember we lost the RBR 35-0, and it was like a migraine from here to California and back. And I was just like, what in the world happened there? And the first thing I do is just go home and I rewatch the film. And I'm just like, and then you just take your notes and say, this would never happen again. Right. And you gotta make sure as a leader, Jalen Hurts is right. I say it in this version here. You win some, you lose some. When you lose, you learn. So inside of every win, there's a lesson. Inside of every loss, there's a lesson. Either way, you got to evaluate that
Mhm.
lesson. And not one win is perfect. There's so much ups and downs and valleys that you got to go through in a win. When you overcome it and you get that W, that's the reward, right? When you lose, you're like, all right, well, why did we lose? What's the lesson inside this loss? You got to be able to finish a game. You got to be able to play every single play like it's your last play.
Mhm.
There's so many lessons that's at our forefront that we don't see. Coming off the weekend, playing the number 4 team in the nation, the Yellow Jackets, right? We beat them up. Then we come back and it's
Yeah.
like, all right, well, we thought you can turn it on and off. And I'm just like, girls, you can't turn this thing on and off. The second you step over those white lines, you got to be on. Right. And the offense and the defense, you got to be patient. We played defense phenomenal for like 15 seconds. On ball defense, everybody's talking about, and then there's a drop off after, like, yeah, we can do. No, that ball's transitioning out quick. You're peasing, you got to be on it. And it's got to be talking
Yeah.
transition all the way down. It's like when you watch the North Carolinas play and you watch the Loyolas play, these girls don't shut up, but they're having those conversations on the field in live moments. And I'm just like, they're hard to beat. One, because they're annoying. Two, they understand that they practice this way. If the ball gets inside the 8, they're all yelling crash. And it's like a jar of
Yeah.
honey, and all the bees are coming to that honey. Is that, where's that ball gonna go? She's gonna get wrecked. He's gonna get wrecked. So and it's just, they got to be able to have that switch. And when we go into that symposium, leaders got to always, like, as a leader, whether you're the vocal leader or the emotional leader, your switch has always got to be on. And because they look to you for that. It may be a coach. It might have to come from the coach. Your switch
Mhm.
has always got to be on. And this comes with habits. Your habits. If you start practicing bad habits, bad shit gonna happen. If you start practicing good habits and it starts to become repetitive, okay, great things are gonna happen. And you just got to stay the course. Stay within the process.
Yeah, definitely.
So
I love it. All right.
Oh yeah.
Well, till next time, we have our first guest on. Another
Yeah.
guest, at least, not one.
Oh yeah. We're
Um,
gonna
we're rolling.
definitely.
Okay.
All right.
All
Until
right.
then,
Until then, see you later.
next time.
Next
And
time.